everyone, how are you today? And today I just wanted to give you a quick update on the shopping killer case, which I had talked about in a previous video. And there's been some new information that has come out as of Monday, September 12th, so the beginning of this week. And again, if you do have any information regarding the shopping killer case or about Anthony Robinson, the suspect in the case, please contact the Fairfax County Police Department Major Crimes Bureau at 703-246-7800, option 2. Again, that's 703-246-7800, option 2. And then tips can also be submitted anonymously through the Crime Solvers program. And that number is 1-866-411-TIPS, which is TIPS. And that again is 1-866-411-TIPS or TIPS. You can also text the word F or the letters FCCS plus tip to 847-411. Again, you can text the letters FCCS plus tip to 847-411. So again, as the beginning of this week, there was another woman who came out who says that she did date Mr. Robinson, the suspect in the shopping cart killer case. And that woman goes by the name of Monica White, who is 55. And she met Anthony Robinson from posting an ad on a dating website. He had answered the ad. She had been going through a painful divorce, and when she's 55 now, so 2 years prior, at the age of 53, she was ready to begin dating again in the fall of 2020. So she had created dating or profiles on dating sites, and soon after she received a message from Anthony Robinson, who would a year later would have the authorities call him a serial killer. And then again, Anthony Robinson would meet women on different dating sites such as Plenty of Fish and Tagged, and then would lure them to hotels before killing them and loading their bodies into shopping carts and dump them in vacant lots. And again, as I noted or spoke about in the first video, he's been charged in 2 killings and been linked publicly by police to 3 other killings. So going back to the interactions that Miss White had with Mr. Robinson, and Miss White recalls that Mr. Robinson first reached out to her and said, "Hi, beautiful, I'd like to get to know you better." It was described that the whirlwind romance that followed was often in turns intense, bizarre, and menacing. And Miss White's account provides the richest picture of who Mr. Robinson is. Police, they haven't said a lot about Anthony Robinson. They have explained that he had a range of different jobs and was very transient and lived in different places. And then his family has never given an interview. His preliminary hearing on the 2 counts of murder is expected to occur on Monday, September the 19th of 2022 in Harrisonburg, Virginia, where he was accused of killing 54-year-old Eileen Redman of Harrisonburg and 39-year-old Tanita Larice Smith of Charlottesville, Virginia, last fall. Going back to Miss White's interactions with Mr. Robinson, it was described that she felt brush with an alleged serial killer has left her shaken. She said she has not been able to go on dates since. And then she said, "It really rocked my world. I went into a depression." Miss White lives outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She said that her relationship with Anthony Robinson proceeded quickly after the first message that he sent to her. She described him as flattering, telling her that what he found attractive about her profile, and he liked that she was into art and had been a preschool teacher. And she told him that she was looking for a serious relationship, and he confided in her that he did prefer older women because they're more mature. Soon after, their messages turned into video chats. Miss White said that Anthony would call her from the metro as he commuted to or from his jobs in Washington, D.C. She said that's where he was working removing snow and cleaning the streets for the city. And at the time, Mr. Robinson was living in a friend's apartment in the district in Washington, D.C., and occasionally would stay with his mother in Maryland in the United States. And Robinson never told Miss White that he had never been married, but he did have a son who passed away when the child was 2 years old, and then a daughter who was 5 or 6 around the time. Miss White never learned much about the children's mother, but then she sensed that Mr. Robinson had a difficult childhood himself. She said he seemed to have an attachment to her and then would call her every day. And by late 2020, Anthony scheduled his first visit to Pennsylvania, where she lived. Miss White said that she and Anthony spent a weekend together hanging out, watching movies, and eating Chinese food. And then Miss White introduced Mr. Robinson to her adult son. As the relationship continued, Miss White said that Anthony said he hoped that they could be a couple and move his daughter to Pennsylvania to live with her. Mr. Robinson returned to the Harrisburg area for Miss White's birthday in February of 2021, and she said that his visit had a surprise where he bought a one-way bus ticket. She said when he got here, he said, "I'm going to have to get a job or something in order to get back home because I don't have my ticket money." At that time, she said that Anthony got a job at a warehouse for an online pet supply store and then stayed with her for 3 weeks while he raised money for his return trip. She said that he never mentioned anything about killing or hurting women, but he did show darker moments. For example, she said at one point he pulled his shirt up to show her a scar and said that he had been stabbed. Then he had never explained how the stabbing occurred, but said he promised he would kill anyone that came at him with a knife again. And she said when they were intimate, Mr. Robinson sometimes choked her briefly, leaving her gasping for breath. He did mention that he had been engaged to a woman who died. That woman was 30-year-old Sky Allen, who passed away on Valentine's Day in 2018. And Sky and Anthony met online in 2016, and then they were planning a wedding. They had been living with Sky's mother in Glenarden, Maryland. And Stacy Allen, Sky's mother, found her daughter barely breathing and with a light pulse in her bed on the morning of February 14th of 2018. And Sky had spent the night with Anthony. It was described in the room the pair shared. And then Sky was rushed to the hospital, where unfortunately she died a short time later. On Sky's death certificate, it mentioned that she had died of natural causes, and more specifically that her death was found to be caused by fatal cardiac arrhythmia, according to a copy of her death certificate, which was obtained by the Washington Post. And the Prince George's County Police in Prince George's, Maryland, said that they're going to take a fresh look at the case. The Prince George's County Police Department didn't open an investigation into her death in 2018. The department said in a statement, and then it was said that they face a challenge looking into her death. They stated, our agency was not noted of her passing, which occurred at a hospital, and we were not contacted by the hospital, and therefore had no involvement in documenting any aspect of her death. She was cremated following her death. And then in January of 2022, Prince George's County Police Department homicide supervisor did talk to Miss Allen's relatives. And based on those conversations, the Prince George's County Police Department Cold Case Unit is reviewing the facts surrounding her death. But it wasn't clear immediately how they would continue their investigation and if charges would be brought against Mr. Robinson. And with this new information showing the relationship between Sky Allen and Mr. Robinson, the investigation is looking to see if she may possibly be his sixth victim. And it was said that Stacy Allen, her mother, always believed that Sky did not die from a heart problem. She said she was drawn into the room where Sky was by uncharacteristic silence because Sky always snored. She said, "If I don't hear her snoring, she's up. I didn't hear no more snoring," her mother remembered. She said doctors at Prince George's Hospital in Prince George's, Maryland, said Sky died of cardiac arrhythmia, which the hospital said. And then, but it was stated that perhaps a mother's instinct told her that Robinson had something to do with it.
We begin tonight with a mother's intuition, potentially confirmed by a new police investigation. Good evening, I'm Doreen Gensler. Today, a judge in Virginia decided there is enough evidence for a grand jury to consider 2 first-degree murder charges against the suspected so-called shopping cart killer, and a 6th death may now be connected to that suspect. We've been following the saga since 2 women were found dead in Harrisonburg, Virginia last year. Since then, the suspect in those deaths has been linked to a woman's death in Northeast D.C. and 2 more in Alexandria. Now, police are looking into a death of a woman in Prince George's County. News 4's Jackie Benson spoke tonight to the mother of that woman who met the suspect through a dating app.
This connection, first reported by the Washington Post, means Prince George's County Police are now reviewing the 2018 death of Sky Allen.
I don't know. It's just crazy.
Stacy Allen has always believed her daughter Sky did not die from a heart problem. She found the 30-year-old unconscious, barely breathing in her bedroom on February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2018. She says she was drawn to the room by uncharacteristic silence because she says Sky always snored.
If I don't hear her snoring, she's up. I didn't hear no more snoring.
Allen says doctors at Prince George's Hospital Center declared Sky died of cardiac arrhythmia. But something, a mother's instinct, told her that Anthony Robinson, the man who shared Sky's bedroom, the man she was planning a future with, a man nobody in the family really cared for, had something to do with it. She says she asked Robinson point blank if he killed Sky.
I asked him, "Did you do something to my daughter?" He said no.
That was the last time she saw Anthony Robinson, until sometime around Thanksgiving last year when she got a phone call from a detective in Rockingham County, Virginia. Anthony Eugene Robinson had been arrested in connection with the deaths of 2 women at a Harrisonburg, Virginia motel. Police say he disposed of their bodies by using a shopping cart. Within weeks, he would be linked to the remains of 2 more women. They were found in a plastic container with a shopping cart nearby in Fairfax County, leading the police chief to dub him the shopping cart killer. Robinson is also suspected, but not charged, in the death of Sonia Champ, 40. Her body was found in a shopping cart in Northeast D.C. in September of 2021. Stacy Allen says the revelations about Robinson only add to the nearly unendurable pain of losing her daughter.
I literally stopped doing Christmas, Thanksgiving, any holidays. And my sister told me, "Stacy, this is not you. You get your grandkids all the time. I ain't got energy no more."
Prince George's County Police face a challenge in reviewing Sky Allen's death. They say they were not notified by the hospital when she died, and her body was cremated for burial. Jackie Benson, News 4.
Going back to Miss White, who also dated Anthony, she said at her house, her relationship with Anthony came to a tumultuous end. She held a birthday party for herself in mid-February of 2021, and at the party she said that Anthony drank heavily And he also made sexually suggestive comments toward her son and the teenage son of a friend, which were confirmed by a cousin of Miss White who attended. And then Miss White did confront Anthony about the comments the next day, and she said she told Anthony that the comments were inappropriate and asked him if he had an interest in men. And then Miss White said Mr. Robinson told her that he did. And she said she felt blindsided because Mr. Robinson had not been forthcoming about that side of himself. And then she said she couldn't trust him any longer. She said he could be anything. And then at that time, a fight did ensue between Miss White and Mr. Robinson. And then Mr. Robinson called the police before he finally left. And then the local police confirmed that they did respond to a call involving Miss White and Mr. Robinson. And then she said what she thought would be the last time she would see Anthony. It wasn't. She said weeks later, Anthony sent her a message on Facebook and said he was living at a hotel in Harrisburg. And then he asked her to come to the hotel, saying that he would give her whatever she wanted. Miss White said he was also interested in buying spice or synthetic marijuana, and then Miss White declined to meet him. About a month later, Miss White was driving in Harrisburg, Virginia, and saw Anthony walking down the street. She said she was shocked by his appearance because he had always been clean cut and neatly groomed, but now she described as being having an untidy beard and a knotty afro. She never saw him again. Roughly 8 months later, in October of 2021, is when police said that Anthony Robinson killed Miss Redmond in Harrisonburg, about 130 miles south of Washington, D.C., after going there for work. Police said that he killed Miss Smith in November. He was then arrested on November 23rd after both of their bodies were found in an open lot in a commercial district in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And police said that surveillance video and cell phone records connected Anthony Robinson to both victims. And the Fairfax County, Virginia police have also publicly linked Anthony Robinson to the killing of Cheyenne Brown, who was 29, of Washington, D.C., and Stephanie Harrison, who was 48, of Redding, California. And then again, which was talked about in the first video that I made, it was said that both women's bodies were found in a trash can off the busy Route 1 corridor in the Alexandria, Virginia area of the county in December. During the periods, though, women went missing. Police said that Robinson was staying at the Moon Inn Hotel across the street from where Miss Brown and Miss Harrison's bodies were found. And they linked Miss Brown to Robinson via cell phone and video evidence. And she was last seen alive in September of 2021. And then Miss Harrison's family last heard from her in mid-August of 2021. However, at this time, Mr. Robinson has not been charged in their killings. It was said that he's been linked publicly, but he has not been charged yet. And the Fairfax County, Virginia police, they have interviewed Miss White as part of their investigation, a spokesman said. And they're also investigating Mr. Robinson in connection with the killing of Sonia Champ, who was 40, of Washington, D.C. And her body was found in a shopping cart near Union Station in Washington, D.C. in September of 2021. Mr. Robinson has not been charged in her death yet either. And Miss White said that she was stunned when a relative forwarded her a story about Anthony being called a serial killer by police in December. She was supposed to be with her niece who was giving birth, but then she couldn't leave her home. She said she thought of the women who had been killed and her own experience with Mr. Robinson. It was all kinds of emotion flooding my head, she said. Now, going more so into the investigation about Mr. Robinson, it was noted again that there was video showing him pushing a shopping cart, police say, which held bodies. And again, security video from a Virginia Howard Johnson hotel showed the same, it was described as grisly scene playing out twice in late 2021 that a detective testified in court on Monday, September the 12th, that Anthony Robinson was wheeling a shopping cart to room 336 at the Howard Johnson Hotel, and then emerging sometime later, pushing what appeared to be a body. And Robinson had killed 54-year-old Eileen Redmond of Harrisonburg and 39-year-old Tanita Smith of Charlottesville, Virginia, inside his Harrisonburg hotel room before loading their bodies into the cart. And that was alleged by Harrisonburg and Rockingham County Commonwealth Attorney Marcia Garst, who alleged in court. It was said that the remains of both women were ultimately found in a field behind the hotel, nearly naked, Garst said in a preliminary hearing in Harrisonburg, Rockingham County General District Court. And Robinson, who's now 36, a DC resident, had watched pornography shortly after killing both women, she said. And both of the women's bodies were found in Harrisonburg shortly before Robinson's arrest on November 23rd of 2021. And he has been in custody since his arrest. And Garst said of the women that they were used and thrown away. The hearing was the first significant one for a man Anthony Robinson authorities have alleged is a serial killer. And then, however, Louis Nagy, attorney for Anthony Robinson, argued that the prosecutors had not shown that Robinson killed Miss Redmond or Miss Smith, saying that a medical examiner had not made a definitive conclusion about how either woman died, and police did not know what occurred inside the Howard Johnson hotel room. There is no evidence that this is a cold-blooded, premeditated murder, Mr. Nagy said in court. And then in court, it was noted that Anthony Robinson did not speak during the hearing, and then he had a stern look on his face as he entered the courtroom wearing an orange and white striped jumpsuit. He's currently being held in the Rockingham County Jail. And then in court, Harrisonburg Detective Brooke Wetherell testified that the case began as a missing person investigation, and Miss Redmond was last seen on October 24th of 2021. Wetherell testified that Miss Redmond's friends and phone data put her last location at the Howard Johnson Hotel in Harrisonburg. And while still searching for Miss Redmond, Detective Wetherell told the courtroom that on November 19th of 2021, she was notified by Charlottesville police that Miss Smith had also gone missing, and that phone data put her last location at the same Howard Johnson Hotel. And Detective Wetherell eventually determined that the last call Miss Redmond placed was with Anthony Robinson, she testified, and said that's when police looked at the security video from the hotel. And then at the time, Anthony was living at the hotel as part of his compensation for working in a nearby chicken processing plant at Pilgrim's Pride Chicken Plant in nearby Timberville, Virginia. And Detective Wetherell said she obtained surveillance footage from the hotel that showed Miss Redmond arriving at Mr. Robinson's room about 6 p.m. on the day she was last seen. Video showed Mr. Robinson removing what appeared to be a lifeless body in the shopping cart with white bed sheets and a gold comforter at about 4 a.m. the next day. And then video also showed Robinson throwing away tennis shoes that appear to be Miss Redmond's. And Detective Weatherall also said that surveillance video showed Miss Smith entering Anthony's hotel room, but did not show her emerging alive. On November 21st of 2021, video showed Mr. Robinson pushing what appeared to be a body wrapped in a sheet away from the room, also in a shopping cart around 4 a.m. And again, Detective Weatherall testified that she found both bodies behind the hotel near a tree line about 15 feet apart on November 25th of 2021. And Miss Redmond was found with her hands bound and a bag over her head and a cord around her neck. And then Miss Smith was found with an abrasion on her head, the detective testified. The autopsy showed each woman was found with plastic bags over their heads. Arms were tied behind their backs with chunky black yarn. And then a prosecutor showed the judge a photo and a receipt of Anthony Robinson in the nearby Walmart buying black yarn. And a medical examiner determined that both women died of homicidal violence of unidentified etiology, but suspected that they had been strangled or asphyxiated, given signs on the bodies, and the black bag placed over Miss Redmond's head and the cord around her neck. And Detective Weatherall testified that she questioned Mr. Robinson in November of 2021 about both women's deaths. She said he told her that he had met the women on the dating sites Tagged and Plenty of Fish. And Detective Weatherall testified when he was arrested, Mr. Robinson told police that both women had died of overdoses on a white pill and that he had panicked after awakening and then finding them dead. So he quickly disposed of their bodies. He said he dumped the bodies because he didn't know what else to do. So then they're gonna question him why he didn't call 911, why they were found with the same black cord that was found on the body, and why when he dumped the bodies they had the plastic bags over their heads. And then his account was rejected, calling his hotel room a house of horror, and then saying the evidence pointed to him killing both women. And in Harrisonburg court, the case is going to be going to a grand jury, and then there's still no charges in Fairfax County, Virginia. And after watching video of Beth Redmond and Tanita Smith each walking into room 336 of the Howard Johnson Motel in Harrisonburg, Virginia, with Anthony Robinson, and watching him leave with bodies wrapped in sheets in a shopping cart, a judge Monday, September 12th of 2022, found probable cause for first-degree murder counts. And the judge was Judge John Hart Jr., again in Harrisonburg, Virginia, found that there was sufficient evidence and ruled that there was probable cause to charge Anthony Robinson with first-degree murder and will forward the case to a grand jury. He's facing 2 counts of first-degree murder and then 2 counts of concealing a body. The judge decided to refer the charges after seeing video evidence of Beth Redmond and Tanita Smith each walking into room 336 of the Howard Johnson Motel in Harrisonburg with him, and then Mr. Robinson in each case later leaving the room before dawn and retrieving a shopping cart. And then soon after, video also shows him dragging the cart out of the room with body-sized items wrapped in sheets. And the Charlottesville Police Department called the Harrisonburg police to say that the cell phone of Miss Smith, whose disappearance they were investigating, was pinging at the motel, and then it was found in room 336. And Mr. Robinson's attorney, Louis Nagy, suggested the killings weren't premeditated because he said at least one woman was seen walking into room 336 and leaving 4 hours later unharmed. His attorney suggested that Mr. Robinson's charge be downgraded to second-degree murder. And then prosecutor Marcia Garst disagreed, saying he purposely secreted their bodies and let them rot, she said. He lured the women there. This was clearly a sadosexual killing. He didn't call 911. He used them for what he wanted, then left them rotting with the maggots. And Judge John Staley Hart, the chief judge of the Harrisonburg-Rockingham General District Court, said, "I've considered all the evidence. This appears to be a methodical plan to kill. The circumstantial evidence is very strong." As Mr. Robinson was led out of the courtroom, a woman called out saying, "Love you, Aunt," and then Anthony turned and looked as he was led away. The grand jury will consider whether to indict Mr. Robinson on Monday, September 19th of 2022, and Fairfax County, Virginia investigators have said they believe Mr. Robinson met most of his victims on dating apps. They have interviewed women who met Robinson and continue to seek others while coordinating with other jurisdictions to determine whether previous unsolved murders or missing persons cases might be linked. So again, if you do have any information about interactions with Anthony Robinson or any information about this case, please contact the Fairfax County Police Department Major Crimes Bureau, and that number again is 703-246-7800, option 2. Again, 703-246-7800, option 2. Tips can be submitted anonymously through the Crime Solvers program. The number is 1-866-411-TIPS. TIPS is TIPS. Again, that is 1-866-411-TIPS. Or by text, type the letters FCCS plus tip to 847-411. Again, text the letters FCCS plus tip to 847-411. And so that's the most recent information that has come to light about this case, and it's still being investigated to see if there's more victims or more people who may have information about Anthony Robinson. And he met these people on dating apps, and with dating apps being so prevalent today with meeting people, definitely please try to be safe, and then it's good to meet in public places. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen about this case. I hope you guys have a good day. Thank you.